Today we're going to read My Printing Recollections, Benjamin Franklin, Chapter 2. He brought me to the Crooked Billet in Water Street. Here I got a dinner, and while I was eating it, several sly questions were asked of me, as it seemed to be suspected from my youth and appearance that I might be some runaway. After dinner my sleepiness returned, and being shown to a bed I lay down without undressing and slept till 6 in the evening, was called to supper, went to bed again very early, and slept soundly till next morning. Then I made myself as tight as I could, and went to Andrew Bradford, the printer's. I found in the shop the old man, his father, whom I had seen at New York, and who, traveling on horseback, had got to Philadelphia before me. He introduced me to his son, who received me civilly, gave me a breakfast, but told me he did not at present want a hand, being lately supplied with one, but there was another printer in town lately set up, one Keimer, who perhaps might employ me. If not, I should be welcome to the lodge at his house, and he would give me a little work to do now and then till fuller business should offer. The old gentleman said he would go with me to the new printer, and when he found him, "Neighbor," said Bradford, "I have brought to see you a young man of your business. Perhaps you may want such a one." He asked me a few questions, put a composing stick into my hand to see how I worked, and then said he would employ me soon, though he had just then nothing for me to do. And taking old Bradford, who he had never seen before, to be one of the townspeople that had a good will for him, entered into a conversation on his present undertaking and prospects, while Bradford, not discovering that he was another printer's father and Keimer's, saying he expected to get the greatest part of the business into his own hands, drew him out by artful questions, and starting little doubts, to explain all his views, what interest he relied on, and in what manner he expected to proceed. I, who stood by and heard all, saw immediately that one of them was a crafty old sophister, and the other was a mere novice. Bradford left me with Keimer, who was greatly surprised when I told him who the old man was. Keimer's printing house, I found, consisted of an old shattered press and one small worn-out font of English, which he was then using himself, composing an elegy on Aquila Rose, before mentioned, an ingenious young man of excellent character, much respected in the town, clerk of the assembly, and a pretty poet. Keimer made verse too, but very indifferently. He could not be said to write them, for his manner was to compose them in the types directly out of his head. So there being no copy, but one pair of cases and elegy likely to require all the letter, no one could help him. I endeavored to put his press, which he had not yet used and of which he understood nothing, into order fit to be worked with, and promising to come and print off his elegy as soon as he should have got it ready, I returned to Bradford's, who gave me a little job to do for the present, and there I lodged and dieted. A few days later, Keimer sent for me to print off the elegy, and now he had another pair of cases, and a pamphlet to reprint, on which he set me to work. These two printers I found poorly qualified for their business. Bradford had not been bred for it, and was very illiterate, and Keimer, though seeming to be something of a scholar, was a mere compositor, knowing nothing of press-work. He had been one of the French prophets, and could act their enthusiastic agitations. At this time he did not profess any particular religion, but something of all on occasion, was very ignorant of the world, and had, as I afterward found, a good deal of the knave in his composition. He did not like my lodging at Bradford's while I worked with him. He had a house indeed, but without furniture, so he could not lodge me, but he got me a lodging at Mr. Reed's, before mentioned, who was the owner of his house, and my chest and clothes being come by this time, I made rather a more respectable appearance in the eyes of Miss Reed than I had done when she first happened to see me eating my roll in the street. I began now to have some acquaintance among the young people of the town that were lovers of reading, with whom I spent my evenings very pleasantly, and gaining money by my industry and frugality. I lived very agreeably, forgetting Boston as much as I could, and not desiring that any there should know where I resided except my friend Collins, who was in my secret and kept it when I wrote to him. At length an incident happened that sent me back again much sooner than I had intended. I had a brother-in-law, Robert Holmes, master of a sloop that traded between Boston and Delaware. He, being at Newcastle, 40 miles below Philadelphia, heard there of me and wrote me a letter mentioning the concern of my friends in Boston at my abrupt departure, assuring me of their goodwill to me, and that everything would be accommodated to my mind if I would return, to which he exhorted me very earnestly. I wrote an answer to his letter, thanked him for the advice, but stated my reasons for quitting Boston fully and in such light as to convince him I was not so wrong as he had apprehended. Sir William Keith, governor of the province, was then at Newcastle, and Captain Holmes, happening to be in company with him when my letter came to hand, spoke to him of me, and showed him the letter. The governor read it, and seemed surprised when he was told my age. He said I appeared a young man of promising parts, and therefore should be encouraged. The printers at Philadelphia were wretched ones, and if I set up there, had no doubt I should succeed. For his part, he would procure me the public business, and do me every other service in his power. This my brother-in-law afterwards told me in Boston, but I knew as yet nothing of it. When one day Keimer and I being at work together near the window, we saw the governor and another gentleman, which proved to be Colonel French of Newcastle, finely dressed, coming directly across the street to our house, and heard them at the door. Keimer ran down immediately, thinking it a visit to him, but the governor inquired for me, came up, and with a condescension and politeness I had been quite unused to, made me many compliments, desired to be acquainted with me, blamed me kindly for not having myself known to him when I first came to the place, and would have me away with him to the tavern, where he was going with Colonel French to taste, as he said, some excellent Madeira. I was not a little surprised, and Keimer starved like a pig poisoned. I went, however, with the governor and Colonel French to a tavern at the corner of Third Street, and over the Madeira he proposed my setting up my business, laid before me the probabilities of success, and both he and Colonel French assured me I should have their interests and influence in procuring the public business of both governments. On my doubting whether my father would assist me in it, Sir William said he would give me a letter to him. So it was concluded that I should return to Boston in the first vessel with the governor's letter recommending me to my father. In the meantime, the intention was to be kept a secret, and I went on working with Keimer as usual, the governor sending for me now and then to dine with him, and a very great honor I thought it, and conversing with me in the most affable, familiar, and friendly manner imaginable. About the end of April 1724, a little vessel offered for Boston. I took leave of Keimer as going to see my friends. The governor gave me an ample letter, saying many flattering things of me to my father, and strongly recommending the project of my setting up at Philadelphia as a thing that must make my fortune. We struck on a shoal in going down the bay, and sprung a leak. We had a blustering time at sea, and were obliged to pump almost continually, at which I took my turn. We arrived safely, however, at Boston in about a fortnight. I had been absent 7 months, and my friends had heard nothing of me, for my brother-in-law Holmes was not yet returned, and had not written about me. My unexpected appearance surprised the family. All were, however, very glad to see me, and made me welcome, except my brother. I went to see him at his printing house. I was better dressed than ever while in his service, having a genteel new suit from head to foot, a watch, and my pockets lined with near £5 sterling in silver. He received me not very frankly, looked at me all over, and turned to his work again. The journeymen were inquisitive where I had been, what sort of country it was, and how I liked it. I praised it much, and the happy life I had led in it, expressing strongly my intention of returning to it, and one of them asking what kind of money we had there. I produced a handful of silver and spread it before them, which was a kind of rare show they had not been used to, paper being the money of Boston. Then I took an opportunity of letting them see my watch. And lastly, my brother still glum and sullen. I gave him a piece of 8 to drink and took my leave. This visit of mine offended him extremely, for when my mother some time after spoke to him of a reconciliation, and of her wishes to see us on good terms together, and that we might live for the future as brothers, he said I had insulted him in such a manner before his people that he could never forget or forgive it. In this, however, he was mistaken. That's the end of chapter 2. I will read chapter 3 in the next video.